Well, our first guest is the absolute legend, Seán Boylan!
Ah, well. Yeah. Sit down there now. Wow.
How are you?
I'm very well now. You come up in conversation recently, and I can't remember who it was with. And they asked me, when was the last time I saw you?
Right.
And I said, just after Holy Communion in the Carmelite Church in the centre of Dublin.
That's right, yeah.
Is it the half-time or the 11 Mass that's sung?
Yeah. It was just special.
It's unbelievable, isn't it, to hear?
Special. Yeah, it just sort of allows you to get into a space, and that's it. And it was lovely. It's lovely to see yourself as well.
Yeah.
And, but it's that sort of a place. You can wander in, you can wander out, you can stay there. You can stay there all day, and it's important, yeah.
There's something about that sung Mass, though, that is... It kind of, you're right, it puts you in another space, and it's beyond the mind.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I don't know if it's the equivalent of 40,000 fans roaring, "Come on, Meath!" Come on, God!
Oh, you little bollocks!
But there is something about that, isn't there?
Yeah.
Just. Can you talk to me a little bit about your ability to encourage young fellas? There might be people watching who don't know why you're so revered and loved in Meath, is because you kind of turned around the Meath Gaelic football team's fortunes during the 80s and the 90s and into the early noughties. I'm talking to you, I'm attracted to you. There's something about you, something about your goodness that is appealing. And I'm wondering how you managed to persuade lumps of men, tough men to run through brick walls for you. What do you think that was about?
First of all, it's something I never coveted, ever. I never saw myself as a coach or a trainer or anything like that at all. I got a phone call from a revered man in Meath, got to be good to him now, Brian Smith. He captained the first Meath team that won All-Ireland. And it was to ask me, would I consider being coach and trainer to the Meath senior football team. And I thought he was mad. And now, that's the wrong thing to say, but it was, you understand,
yeah.
like, I've no All-Ireland medalist. I played inter-county hurling for 20 years.
Wow.
Yeah, but so what is it? I suppose it's more getting people to understand that if you can do something good for 5 minutes, there's no reason why you can't do, with preparing yourself right, that you can't do for 10 or 15 or whatever it was. Yeah. And I know people said at the time some of the things we did were mad, but
like what?
Mad in that my first sort of winter with that Meath team, and they were very, very big, strong men. I brought a little man in, Gary Power, and I just said, these men are so physically strong. I need to unwind them. I need to get the tension out of their muscles and their joints.
Yeah.
And for almost every night that we trained, we would have done more than 20 minutes, maybe half an hour stretching alone. And then, of course, they start calling me Nuryov, you know what I mean? Because you suddenly come along and you get down the ground, you stretch your legs down, right? And say, this fella's mad, right? And then, because that very first winter, again, like the one we were after having, so wet, it was crazy. I took them over to Bettystown, and we did the dunes. And the very first night that we were there, I said, let's come on down here. And you can imagine it's month of February, end of February, and I peel off and I head straight into the water. And the lads are saying, he's fucking mad, he's mad, absolutely mad. The real reason I went in, Tommy, myself, was I wasn't able to swim. And I knew the characters that were there, that they'd actually throw me in if I didn't do it myself. And and it was that sort of thing, that understanding that getting into the sort of the Irish Sea at that time of the year, with the turbulence, it releases the sulphur, the iodine, the magnesium. You're like training horses, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So in other words, and it was getting them without even realising that I was doing it, getting them to take ownership of themselves and preparing themselves and having themselves right.
Yeah, but there must have been a particular drive or particular team ethos or a particular hunger that they were able to express on the field for them to have done so well, you know?
The very first night I spoke to them, some of the bigger lights were laid there, And when they came in, I heard one of them saying, "Who are these so-and-sos?" In other words, there were a lot of other lads in there. And I said nothing until near the end. And I just said, now, I don't care whether you're from Oldcastle or Dunboyne, whether you're from Ballybrackie or Bettystown. They're the four corners of the county. You can kick the lard out of each other on a Sunday. When you come into me on a Tuesday night, you're coming in as Meath men. And they embraced that. And they took that on. And that's what made it different. Now, I have to say to you that it was extraordinary to see the way men developed. And they suddenly realised, I always remember that, very first year, they got promotion to Division 1. And Joe Castles was the captain. He was there from 73. And Joe says, "Oh, it's no use if you don't win the Leinster, if you don't win the first round of the Leinster, you see." And Rourke was being interviewed, Colin. And he says, "Well, if it's around long enough," he says, we'll make a trainer and a manager out of him, you see." And again, because Colin, he oozed confidence. Do you understand? Oozed it, yeah. But
did you design exercises and sessions to make them stronger?
I designed exercises to loosen them out and make them more agile. Okay. And some of the exercises that we would done, like training things on sort of on the Hill of Tar, whatever it was, people would say you were mad. Like even that third weekend, you know, that third match when we got over that.
Just to remind people, like who mightn't be as clued into the past as I am.
Yeah.
We Dublin played Meath in the first round of the Leinster Championship, and there was 3 draws, and this is the gap between the third draw and the fourth match.
Yeah, yeah. And
when you would think that it's all about getting athletes more focused, more primed, and you decided to bring them.
I went round. The county board said to me, "Do you want to bring them anywhere?" And I said no after the first time. And I went round to all the girls because most of them were married. I said, if I take the lads away for a couple of days, the weekend, would you mind? Oh, Jesus, Shawnee, and to beat the Dubs, right? And so the next morning, Noel Keating, God be good to him, was at a meeting. Noel was the sponsor, even though it wasn't, from Keypack, right?
Yeah,
he was the owner of Keypack. But he was at a meeting with Michael McKendy, who was the Minister for Agriculture. And I had to ring with no mobiles, and he excused himself with Michael O'Kennedy that it's very important, an urgent thing in Scotland. They had a factory in Scotland as well. So we flew to Glasgow and we're heading towards Loch Lomond. And we stopped in a little place called Drimmen, where Billy Connolly's from. And we went into the Buchanan Arms and we're having tea and scones and strawberry jam. And I loved the atmosphere in the place. I said, this is where we're coming to.
Yeah.
I had no idea whether there was a pitch there, whether there were any facilities there, but I said, this is where we're coming. Anyhow, we went there and we had a great night on the Friday night, a great session. And the next morning, we went training. And
now, I've seen footage of this training session. Like, lads weren't well.
no, they weren't funny. It says, the other way, it could be seasickness or whatever.
Yeah. Oh, you're such a diplomat. Seasickness, do you reckon? Yeah.
But anyhow, it was very funny anyhow because...
you drank the hotel dry.
Yeah, but sure, look, we did what we could do. But we had great music and we had great chat and we had great crack. But the secret thing, I think, was we hadn't said it to the ladies, but they came as well. They were brought as well.
Ah, right.
All right.
Okay.
So on the Saturday, we had a good session. And then some people went to Loch Lomond. Some people went clay pigeon shooting. We did all sorts of stuff. We had a great evening. Great. It was a real busy day. And on that night, there was a little chapel and we went to a mass. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the idea, that was very simple. Like, it wasn't to help you win or anything else, just to get that break from it because it's so important, right?
But Seán, what made them so tough? Like those old matches are being showed. And most recently, the fourth match in the Dublin series was being showed. Yeah. And Colm O'Rourke takes a belt to the jaw that knocks him out. Yeah. And he's flat on the ground for 5 minutes. And he's helped off the pitch. You wouldn't see it in Vietnam or the Somme. Like, he's like... You wouldn't be surprised to see St. Peter or Simon behind him carrying the cross. Like, he was just hanging on to the fellas. He was off the pitch for, what, 10 minutes? 5-10 minutes? And came back on. Yeah.
He actually saw what happened. He saw it happen, but he still went for the ball. And I remember I'll keep bar and Eamon here, he talking about it afterwards with us that night. We were in the Mansion House, and Keith said to Colin, he said, Colin, sorry about what happened out there today, but he said if the roles were reversed, you probably would have done the same. And typically, Colin O'Rourke, well, the only difference is you probably wouldn't have been able to get up, you know what I mean? But there was huge physical contact. But they were incredibly strong men.
And the men, I suppose the team back then...
They lit the flame.
They lit the flame?
They lit the flame for the lads to come, the Trevor Giles and the Graham Geraghty and Enna McManus and John McDermott and all of those.
Yeah, yeah.
Because when they came, they became part of that culture. And I always remember after they'd won the All-Ireland in '96, asking them what they wanted. And all they wanted was, good job, bit of crack, good holiday. They wanted nothing else. And as a result, those friendships, you know, even with that Dublin team at that time, like, the lads meet for games of golf.
Yeah.
And that's the way it should be. Like, for so often, you know, the game is over and you never get to meet. And I think that's brilliant, how you stand by each other. And that's important.
It's remarkable, Seán. Can you tell me about Tara?
Yeah.
And that sense of you having a sense of there being power there in the ground?
Wow. The Apaches have a great saying, we are who we are, but we are who we were also. And you can actually go there, and there's people walking every day, and you can stand on the hill or any part of it, right? And you can turn towards Slane, like over towards Rossnaree. Cormac McCart, bury me in Rossnaree and face me towards the rising sun. That energy is there, and it becomes part of you, and it helps to root you, and it helps to earth you, and it keeps you from going, getting too many notions about yourself or whatever it is.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, that's it. That's what it is.
I have a sense of it as well, of being... You can tell that it was a county that was once royal.
Yeah.
There is that sense of a kind of... Now, all the dubs watching are laughing.
Laughing at us anyhow, you know
I
what I
want
mean?
to watch that bit again when he said that. What slow down there, you know?
Yeah.
But there is that sense of, pride, I think, and kind of... And it can be a tough old county too, you know, but...
Yeah.
You're right, it is beautiful. One of my favourite things to do is to drive from... to turn off at Kinnegad.
Yeah.
And to drive through Enfield and Trim and Navan and out towards Slane and up towards the motorway then.
That's the way to go.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you feel... you must feel a strong connection with the county in the sense of being able to say, I'm Seán Boylan, I'm part of who I am, I'm a Meath man. Right
beside on the Dunsany Road from Tara, my great-great-grandparents came from there. And the house was burnt in '98. And they came to live in Dunboyne. And the Yeoman attacked Dunboyne as well. There were 85 houses burnt to the ground. And the house where my grandparents came to, that was burnt as well. So the first few years was in a garage, right? And my great-great-grandmother's people were evicted off a farm the day after they paid the rent in '98. And the funny thing about it is that you didn't hold animosity for the people. But I always remember my dad being asked, you know, my father was born in 1880, and that's an awful long time ago. And he was years older than my mother, 28 years older than my mother. Oh. And it was just, there was a pride of place that was there. And I suppose the fact that they'd do anything to make sure that we had education, that you looked out for each other, you minded the sick, you buried the dead, and so on and so forth. Some of the things you can't really do today with the way that it is, which is cruel, but at least people stand on the side of the road and so on, that's important. But that sense of place is a huge thing. There's certain things you can't take out of it, you can't change. You can't take the Boyne Valley out of it, you can't take Slane out of it, you can't take Oldcastle, you can't take Lough Crew. There's centuries of wisdom that is there. We mightn't all have been able to sort of absorb it, but at least it was there for us to take the energy in. And I like that about the county, that people were, it's like, there are so many Dublin people living in Meath now.
Sure.
And they're part and parcel of the community, and that's the way it is, and that's the way it should be. And you'd hope that that would continue, you know.
Colm O'Rourke has a great line about that. He said, Meath people are like Palestinians. We're exiled in our own homeland.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
You've a great sense of goodness, and I think people respond to that. Just to wrap it up, we haven't even gone near the fact that you're a wizard herbalist.
The local witch doctor, yeah. Go on, yeah.
Can I just ask you, in terms of that, in terms of the being a herbalist and choose of, what stuff do you take every day?
Wow. First of all, being a traditional herbalist, and I talked about my great-grandparents coming from Tara. And for 100 years before that, they were herbalists in Tara, right? And some of them were buried in London, Dunboyne, in the castle and so on. And there were 7 or 8 herbs that have been handed down since the 13th century. And there's a herb called parsley piert. It's a native of Gaelic Michael from the 10th century. And I take some of that every day. And I take I take some of that as well. And there's a herb called the oxide daisy, right? And it regenerates tissue and so on. And the one thing, every single one, my kids, it's the same. And I've neighbours that would come in, go down and get a glass of stuff, right? That's the way it was. And that's the way it was when we were kids. People came for a bottle. And let it be TB or osteoarthritis or whatever it was, or chest bottle. But they didn't want to know what was in it at the time.
Yeah.
Nowadays, everybody wants to know everything that's in it. And that's, again, you can't just walk away from that. Do you know what I mean? It becomes part. So that's what I take. And does the lockdown suit me? No, it doesn't, but it's been good for me. It makes you think about things, you know, about your vulnerability as well. And also makes you understand that I'd like to have a cut at it for another while anyhow, you know?
And I suppose there'd be a general sense around Meath as well. We're only biding our time.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, Jesus, be careful.
We'll be back.
Oh, yeah, don't look too far away from you. And isn't that nice, though, isn't it? Oh, that hope.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus, great.
Yeah.
It really is, yeah.
Been a pleasure talking to you, Seán.
Tommy, I can't tell you, I'm absolutely delighted to see you. Can't tell you much more what you're doing, because this thing of bringing hope, it's a huge gift. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.